Hey, what's up everybody? Emo Cat Dad here, hanging out with you, bringing you yet another edition of Emo Cat Dad Listens. If you do hear them, first off, thank you so much for stopping by. What it is I do here is every day of 2024, I vow to check out a new band or artist. I check out 4 songs from across their discography, give you my initial thoughts on the songs, give you my ranking of the songs, and then of course give you my overall thoughts on the artist based on what I just heard. Today's artist, as you can see right there, is Static Dress. Now, this is a up-and-coming scene band I've heard a lot about over the last 2 years or so. I think it was really their 2022 album, I believe, Rouge Carpet Disaster, where I really started hearing about this band a lot. So I knew I would have to check them out at some point. One of you guys were also kind to suggest I should check out Static Dress, so here I am getting to that suggestion. So, while we're on the topic of suggestions, if you have any suggestions of bands or artists I absolutely need to check out, please leave them in the comments below. Sorry if I sound a little weird or act a little weird. I am currently sick, so I'm going to try to bang out this video as well as another one today in hopes that by the time I'm on camera again after those 2 videos, I sound and look normal. So apologize for the brevity in advance because I might be dying by the end of this. So before that happens, let's just dive into Static Dress. Alright, so this is a first for me. This band's first single was released back in 2019 called Clean, and it's their most popular track despite not appearing on an album. So I don't normally start with first songs ever, but we're doing it in Static Dress's case. Okay, so I really didn't know what to expect from Static Dress going into this. I had assumed they were like a post-hardcore, metalcore type band, and that's not wrong, but I expect them to be like way more experimental based on the stuff that I had heard. Maybe that'll come later, but this just sounds like a British Alexisonfire, which, by the way, is not a slight whatsoever. Like, I'm a big Alexisonfire fan, especially like the Crisis era, which this sounds a lot like. This could have been back to back with Boiled Frogs in the Crisis track listing, and I would have been like, oh yeah, like this is a cool song. This is just like Boiled Frogs. The only difference being, as far as I know anyway, Static Dress has one vocalist, Ollie Appleyard, so he's doing everything here, whereas in Alexisonfire, Boiled Frogs, you had 3 vocalists handling that. That in and of itself is very impressive. Alright, next up, they had an album/EP. I'm not really sure what to consider it. Spotify calls it an album. It's 9 tracks, a little on the shorter side for an album. So I would consider it an EP, but whatever you want to call it. It's called Prologue, ... comic book soundtrack, which, big comic book fan, so thumbs up already. And I checked out the track Sober Exits. Okay, so the music is much more interesting in this track. They add a couple extra elements. It's not as copy-paste Alexisonfire as last track was, which again, didn't complain about, quite enjoyed. But I can definitely see some musical growth here. My favorite part was probably the slow down at the end. I guess it was basically the outro. Slowed right down. We got some beautiful vocals over top. What definitely was the highlight of the track for myself personally. Alright, next up is the album that I had heard, Rouge Carpet Disaster. And I checked out track 1 from that, Flea House. Okay, so this track is definitely a little more experimental. They're adding cool new sounds throughout. If I had to compare this, I would not say Alexisonfire anymore. I'd probably say like the newer Underoath stuff, which, shameless plug, I did a video on Underoath prior on this series, so check that out if you haven't. But not to say they completely ditched the sound. You definitely still hear elements of the 2 previous tracks in this track. They just leveled up the sounds a little bit. But if I'm going to complain about something, which really this is on all the tracks, the choruses are all super short. They're like 3-4 lines and done. Alright, next up, Static Dress has just released a new single called Crying, so definitely need to check that out. Okay, after just complaining about the chorus length, this one is an even shorter chorus, so they clearly didn't listen to me. But in this track, we do get our first proper breakdown out of any of these tracks. It wasn't super memorable, but at least it was there. And once again, we get that slow down at the end. In this track, it's kind of more like a bridge because it kind of picks up at the end and we get the chorus again. So yeah, definitely a bridge. I'm a big bridge guy. This definitely worked for me. And once again, was the highlight of the track. All right, so those were tracks I checked out. Let's go ahead and rank them. At number 1, we're going Crying. It's the newest. It was also the most pop sensible. There was lots of clean vocals in it. Really liked Ollie's melody on this track, along with all the music elements they were playing with. Not just guitar, drums. There was some claps and some synths. Really dug everything about it. At 2, I'll go Clean. I know I basically said this was an Alexis on Fire song if they were British, but I was really impressed by Ollie's ability to do all those different sounds, whether it was the straight up pop vocals, the screams, or, you know, the grittier kind of vocals. And again, I'm a big Alexis on Fire fan, so if you're going to give me something that sounds like Alexis on Fire, at least do it well, and that's what Static Dress did on Clean. At 3, I'll go Flea House. I think, again, it was just that experimentation for me. It still had a little bit of what I liked about Clean, but it took it a couple steps forward with the music, with the production elements to add stuff that was a little more interesting to listen to, along with the always strong vocals. And the lyrics were probably the best on this track, I'd say. And at 4, Sober Exits. No shame to this whatsoever. I did still like this song. I did not say anything negative about it. Ultimately, it was just kind of like a step away from the Alexis on Fire sounds of Clean, which, as an Alexis on Fire fan, I appreciate, but not a step far enough that it landed in that kind of more experimental stages that Crying and Flea House gave us. All right, so what are my overall thoughts on Static Dress based on these 4 songs I've just heard? I really dig this band. Had someone have told me in 2022 that Static Dress is like Alexis on Fire if it played with more pop and more sonically interesting elements, I probably would have checked them out then. Unfortunately, I just heard that, you know, they're really good post-hardcore metalcore band. And I'm like, okay, well, I've heard that, you know, 20 times over the last 5 years about all these new bands I gotta check out. So I'll get to them when I get to them. Well, I got to them today, and boy, am I ever glad. Crying is definitely going in contention for Song of the Year. So watch out for it on my top 10 countdown in the coming weeks. See if it makes its way on there. It's definitely in contention though. And lyrically, they're big movie fans, which I am also a movie fan. So I appreciate that, given all the movie references we get throughout the lyrics on these 4 tracks. Alright guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm your friendly neighborhood Emo Cat Dad. I appreciate you sticking around to the very end of this video. I have not died yet, so please hurry, get those suggestions in there now of bands or artists you think I need to check out, and also give me your thoughts on Static Dress. What do you think of the new single Crying? Is it one of their better songs that they've released, like I ranked it as my number 1 out of these 4? Or is it a step back from what you enjoyed about them? Let me know your favorite tracks and your thoughts on Crying down there. But most importantly, I want you to stick around for this ride where I check out a new band or artist every day of 2024. So please come on back tomorrow, see if maybe I get to your suggestion. And the best way of doing that is if you simply cut my wrist and hit subscribe. Emo Cat Dad signing off for now, but until tomorrow, I want to hear you sad. I'm going to go take some meds.